Welcome to something to talk about.
Hi, welcome to Something to Talk About. My name is Taco, and I got one of them. Let's talk about the differences for you. And I'm covering a horrible character. Absolutely horrible. We are covering Amory Lorch, who's just a gross, disgusting, little horrible man. And yeah, so if you don't know what's going on here, go ahead and pause this, read this. Remember, definite spoilers for the A Song of Ice and Fire book series and for the Game of Thrones TV show. And also, I was like in the middle of eating lunch when I started this. So like if I'm like acting a little burpy, because I'm like, I just took a bite of something, took a drink, and hit start. So filming a bunch today, so we're good. If you don't know why I'm talking to you all candidly, that's what I do. I don't do any edits. You can still see my drink. Well, look at that. See, you know what's up. I don't do any edits. I keep it pretty chill, as if I'm just right next to you, talking to you, yelling nerdy stuff at you. So the way this works is I'm going to talk about the house, which is House Lorch, and then do 2 slides for the TV show, and then a bunch for the book. This one got away from me. I've been covering all the dialogue now, so yeah, Amory Lorch definitely, he doesn't deserve the amount that I'm covering him. He's a horrible character, but you know, here he is. He's getting all of it. I got it right. Yeah. So I'm going to do a trigger warning right away, as I reminded myself, do a child violence trigger warning. I know a lot of people can handle the violence, especially if you've read the Song of Ice and Fire books and you've watched the show. But as a dad, when I was writing this, I needed to take a break. So if I'm affected by it because I have a little girl and I was like, oh, man, freaking Amory Lorch, I just want to beat the crap out of him. I figured if I'm getting triggered by it, then you will. So yeah, a little bit of warning if you can't handle extreme violence on children. God, I love the Song of Ice and Fire lore, huh? Jesus. All right, House Lorch. House Lorch is a house of landed knights from the Westerlands. During the Faith Militant Uprising, Sir Lionel Lorch fought in the Battle of the Great Fork alongside Rupert Falwell. I believe that was the Fighting Fool, if I'm not mistaken, and other knights from the Westerlands and Riverlands, as well as hundreds of poor fellows against the royal army led by Maegor the First Targaryen, King Maegor the Cruel. He later used Balerion, the Black Dread, to set aflame the seat of House Lorch and a bunch of other houses. So that's just a little bit of a Faith Militant uprising for you. The Lorches, just like a lot of different houses from the Westerlands and Riverlands, were part of the Faith Militant uprising. And I believe Maegor used Balerion to burn a bunch of seats in the Westerlands, and then Visenya, on top of Vagar, his mommy, burnt a bunch of seats in the Riverlands. If I'm not mistaken, that's how they divvied it. You know, when you're having fun, you know, mother-son bonding time, like genocide. Jesus Christ, these books. All right, let's talk about the show. Lannister vassal. In the television adaptation Game of Thrones, Amory is portrayed by Fintan McKeown. All right, I never practice these ahead of time. Fintan McKeown, I'm gonna go with. Sir Amory Lorch was a landed knight of House Lorch, a knightly house in the service of House Lannister during the War of the Five Kings. He has been loyal vassal of the Lannisters for many a year. Off screen, Lorch is raiding the Riverlands when he is approached by a pair of gold cloaks with the royal warrant for a royal bastard named Gendry. The gold cloaks request assistance from Lorch to capture the boy, who has been protected by Yoren and his Night's Watch recruits. The gold cloaks, along with Lorch and a force of Lannister soldiers, return to Yoren's group. They attack the group and tell him to give up the bastard. Yoren says they have many bastards and refuse to give up Gendry. Lorch identifies himself and tells Yoren to drop his weapon in the name of the king. Yoren asks which king, and Amory kills Yoren personally. He does say Joffrey. He kills Yoren personally with a stab through the back of the neck after his men have subdued him, and then imprisons the survivors, including Arya and Gendry, ordering them to be taken to Harrenhal. He questions them about Gendry and is tricked into believing that the slain Lamy Greenhands is his target because he was carrying Gendry's bullhead helmet. Lorch and his men deliver the prisoners to the mountain at Harrenhal. I'm already seeing small differences. This is one of those characters, and there's after doing this for a while now, I've covered a lot of characters for both the show and the books, and I've noticed there's a couple differences there's a couple different types, right? And this is the, like, early on, they still have the scenes there, the characters are in them, they're slightly the same, but dialogue or some details are a little different, and then they kind of slide into roles of other characters from that area, right? Like, if you need a Westerlands guy, Lorch is going to hand it for a bit. That's kind of like an early season thing. Later on, they kind of just like, we're in Essos and we need a character. What about this guy? He has nothing to do with him. Screw it. Like they kind of just do that later on. But this is still early enough because this comes in season 2 where it's like, kind of like if you squint, right? Okay. The second name. The mountain oversees torture of captives, killing several of them. When Tywin Lannister returns to Harrenhal, he ends the interrogations. He ends the interrogations and orders the prisoners to be put to work because it's a big castle, Harrenhal, and you need people working. Criticizing his men for wasting valuable manpower, Lorch attends a war council held by Tywin. Tywin criticizes his men for underestimating Robb Stark, demands that they devise a new strategy. Lorch reports rumors from spies that there is a dissident in Robb's camp. Yeah, Roose Bolton. Tywin is dismissive, saying that am I saying dissident? Discontent. Discontent. Yeah, there's discontent. Is part of war, and that the very same spies would report the same from the Lannister side. Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong. Anytime you're in war, I'm sure there's some people who were unhappy no matter what, but that doesn't mean they're going to go full on Red Wedding. unless you start pushing a little too far, and that's kind of what Robb did. He married for love in the show. Psh, what are you doing, man? Amory is, I married for love, but I'm not a king. Amory is chastised by Tywin during a war council due to his illiteracy, since a letter meant for Lord Daemon Marbrand was instead accidentally sent to Marlon Dormand. That's a name they made up. I don't think that's real. A vassal of House Stark. I've never heard of House Dormand. I haven't looked it up, but that's gotta be a show house, right? Here, give me a sec. Yeah, I looked it up, and it has to be a show only thing. Why didn't they go with Marbrand? Because that's like Daemon Marbrand. Why didn't they go with Mallister? Because that's super close, right? I don't know. Got to make one up. Marlon Dorman instead of Daemon Marbrand, a vassal of House Stark. Exasperated. I was adding a B. Exasperated. Tywin remarks that my cupbearer reads better than you, aka Arya Stark in the show. Later, Amory catches Arya with a stolen letter and seizes her. And although he is illiterate, as we learn, he can still read this letter. Maybe he's not fully illiterate. So he seizes her. He reads the letter. He's like, wait, this isn't going to the armory or whatever she says, and then chases her through the yard and loses her as she hides behind a corner. That's literally it. She went to a corner, which the nature of corners, they turn, and then she just stopped. So if he would have just kept going, she didn't hide behind anything. She hid in the natural path. Man, Amory, you deserve what happens to you, right? So she hides behind nothing, and then he heads to inform Tywin. Frantically, Arya seeks out her friendly neighborhood assassin, Jaqen H'ghar, and names Amory as her next kill. So this would be her second name. Jaqen says he needs more time, but Arya yells at him, and he does it swiftly. Yeah, I need more time, but I'm Mad about it. All right, fine. Sir Amory is killed with a poisoned dart to the neck, dipped in wolfsbane, just as he enters Tywin's chambers. Tywin mistakes it for an assassination attempt on himself. And there we go. Show stuff. All right, let's get into book stuff. It starts off a little close. It changes a lot. All right. The ugly, brutal man. Yeah, Amory is just ugly. That's what we keep hearing. Sir Amory is a stout man with a piggy face, with little pig eyes, and a high, thin voice. So, what should I do for the voice? Like this. I'm Amory Lorch. Yeah, I'm going with that. That's good. A high, thin voice. The knight is regarded as cruel and unintelligent, brutal man. He's the sort of man to order the deaths of non-combatants if it bores him. Yeah, he's a piece of crap. He's a piece of garbage. Amory's breastplate is decorated in ornate scroll work, and a manticore is depicted on his shield. And his warhorse is armored. Yeah, because he's got, as we already said, like, you know, they got manticore on their sigil. It's pretty cool. According to semi-canon, the semi-canon unabridged World of Ice and Fire. So this is it's semi-canon because, as far as my understanding, George wrote the Song of Ice and Fire, or World of Ice and Fire book. I got it right in front of me, right? He wrote this boy, right? And then online on the website, he put a unabridged version, so just like unedited. So essentially, if there was room and if it worked for the page, it would have made it in. So it's almost canon. Like, it was written by the people who wrote, you know, him and Ellie, and, you know, they were going to put it all in, but it got edited. So there's an unabridged version. So that's what this is. So small grain of salt, but I think it's pretty canon. So during the reign Tarbeck Rebellion in 261 AC, Sir Amory threw the last Lord Tarbeck, a 3-year-old boy, down a well in Tarbeck Hall. It is disputed whether if this was done per the orders of Sir Tywin Lannister or without his knowledge. In 283, Amory was responsible for the murder of 3-year-old Princess Rhaenys Targaryen during the sack of King's Landing. So I will be going into the detail that we know in the show about this. So if you guys don't want to hear, skip until you see this picture, right? Okay, cool. So yeah, so he's responsible for the murder of 3-year-old Princess Rhaenys Targaryen during the sack of King's Landing, per the order of Tywin Lannister. Amory and Gregor Clegane sacked the walls of Maegor's Holdfast to access the royal apartments. Alongside and in front of several Lannister men-at-arms, he dragged the screaming toddler from her father, Rhaegar's bed, from under her father, Rhaegar's bed. So she was hiding underneath Rhaegar's bed. Later, Tywin asked Amory why it had required a 100 thrusts to kill the girl. He told Tywin that she kicked him and that she would not stop screaming. Tywin says that if Lorch had half the wits that God gave a turnip, he would have calmed her with a few sweet words and used a soft silk pillow. Yeah, so that's all pretty horrendous. And don't if you just now clicked off, wait until you see that's like, because I'm going to talk about it. That's all pretty horrendous. So yeah, what he did was he grabbed her from underneath the bed, and because she wouldn't stop fighting, he stabbed her 50 times or more than that. And it's just, I don't know, man. It definitely gets to me because of course she is screaming, of course she is fighting, and yes, there is just like 100 ways to do that less brutal, but he's just an idiot, and he's like, well, the kid who I'm stabbing wouldn't stop freaking out. It's, yeah. Sorry, I'm done talking about it. Amory Lorch is up there with the monsters in this world. For me, he's in the S tier of monsters because of this. And yes, the fact that I have a daughter definitely helps. But yeah, so you suck, Amory. And yeah, moving on. Welcome back if you wanted to skip over that. So yeah. War of the Five Kings. At the onset of the War of the Five Kings, while stationed at the Crossroads Inn, Lord Tywin Lannister orders his brother Kevin to direct Sir Amory, along with his fellow bannerman Sir Gregor Clegane and the sellsword Vargo Hoat, to, quote, forage the Riverlands and to burn what they do not take. each of the raider captains is to have 300 cavalry, saying, so this is what he tells them, tell them I want to see the Riverlands on fire to the God's Eye, from the God's Eye to the Red Fork. So that's Tywin Lannister's orders. So Tywin does release these brutal dogs, right? Like, when you look at the three of his, like, people who are forging the Riverlands, it is, Amory Lorch, Gregor Clegane, and Vargo Hoat. So if you're in that company, you're a piece of garbage and you're not invited for Thanksgiving. I would not hang out with Amory Lorch. Later, Brendan Tully tells Catelyn of the horrors that Lorch, Hoat, and Gregor are committing as Tywin sits safe behind the walls of Harrenhal. Whole villages have been put to the torch, women assaulted and mutilated, butchered, children left unburied to draw the wolves and the wild dogs. Jesus Christ. It would sicken even the dead, is what he said. Blackfish says that Tywin is trying to provoke them into battle. Yeah, absolutely. And like, this is not the only way to do war. And it's like, it's the way Tywin does. And when people go off to defend Tywin, like, oh, he's fighting a war, you don't have to do it this way. This is a way to do it, but hiding behind the biggest castle in the Riverlands and committing war crimes until your enemies show their hand is a pretty horrific way to do it. Like, Robb Stark's not doing this. I'm not saying that any war is good, but, like, grab every other commander and they're not just like, this is a pretty horrific way of handling war. And war is already horrible. So anyways, Yoren's group of Night's Watch recruits, including Arya, decide to spend the night in a holdfast. Okay, so yeah, so now we're jumping over. We're going to have Arya's point of view for pretty much close to the rest of this. Yoren's group of Night's Watch recruits, including Arya Stark, and that's also is where Gendry and Lamy, like in the books, are a part of, decide to spend the night in the holdfast of an abandoned town on the southern shores of the God's Eye. So it's in the Riverlands, south of the big God's Eye Lake. And yeah, they're in a small town that has a holdfast. In the night, Arya wakes up from a wolf howling in her head, and the others claim they didn't hear anything. Then they hear Kurz, a member of their group, blow his hunting horn, like Yoren told him to do if he saw danger. So in a heartbeat, everybody is dressing and arming themselves. So this whole group. Well, Arya rushes to the gate, climbing the parapet, and Arya glances 100 men with torches lighting the town on fire. So this is pretty close to what happens in the book, but keep in mind, though there is still like lighting the town on fire and things like that in the show, I mean, she's not watching from the walls of a holdfast. That's like one of the biggest changes right away. So yeah, burning the town. Soon a column of riders approaches a holdfast, reining up before the gates. A knight in a spiked helm demands that they open it in the name of the king. Rhysand sarcastically asks, which king? So it's not Yoren, it's this guy named Rhysand. When Yoren explains that the townsfolk are gone, the knight suggests Yoren might be one of Beric Dondarrion's. Yoren insists that he only has some lads for the Night's Watch and shows his black cloak as evidence. The knight demands they open the gate or be known as outlaws, but Yoren demands to know who's in command. Who's in command or who commands this group, right? And I do. I do. He was a stout man with a manticore on his shield and an ornate scroll work crawling across his steel breastplate. Through an open visor of his helm, the face pale and piggy peered up. Lots of that's very good alliteration there. Pale and piggy peered up. He had a thin voice. Sir Amory Lorch, bannerman to Lord Tywin Lannister, Castle Rock, the hand of the king, the true king, Joffrey. In his name, I command you, open these gates. I'm going with that, guys. I think that's actually pretty good. Yoren says that they do not, that it does not matter to him if they burn the town down. but his band are not their foes, and they should be left alone. Arya is bewildered that the raiders cannot see that they are neither lords nor knights, but Gendry opines that they simply do not care. Yeah, like, they look at them. I mean, we're clearly not a threat. And then Gendry's like, they don't give a crap. Looking at Sir Amory's face, the way that Cyril Farrell taught her, Arya realizes that Gendry is right. Yeah, she looked, give the sight, like actually look, not just see, right? And that's what is that the order that it goes? That Cyril Farrell, who I also covered, tells her, right? And she sees the just blank face, like, he doesn't care. He's gonna kill them no matter what. And she's like, damn it. Yes. So yeah, storming the holdfast. Sir Amory called, if you're no traitors, open your gates. We'll make certain you're telling the truth and be on your way. Yoren senses a trick and refuses again. The knight in the spiked helm and others mock the old recruiter, and Lorch commands, I command you once more in King Joffrey's name to prove the loyalty you profess and open these gates. Yoren considers for a long moment before refusing again, and Lorch declares, so be it. You defy the king's command, and so proclaim yourself rebels. Black cloaks or no. Yoren informs Lorch that he has some young boys with him, but Lorch declares, young boys, old men, they die the same. Oh. He gives a unenergetic signal, and a spear hurls towards Yoren, but kills Worth, somebody else. Waff. Let's go with Waff. Instead, storm the wolves and kill them all, Sir Amory said in a bored voice. Was that bored? Storm the walls and kill them all. There we go. That was much better. I'm not a voice actor. I don't know why I put myself through this. More spears fly, followed by torches. Yoren commands them to spread out and hold the walls, and they do their best. Amory and his men have no ladders, but the walls are rough enough to climb. So there is no end to the foes. People are just crawling up the walls, and everyone's fighting on top of the walls, right? Each man they defeat is immediately replaced. After some fighting, Yoren declares that the battle is lost and orders Arya to gather as many survivors as she can and escape through a tunnel underneath the barn. She does that with everyone she can, plus Jaqen and the other prisoners. So Jaqen, Rorge, and Biter all follow her through this tunnel. Yoren is killed in the fight at the holdfast, so Arya adds Amory's name to the list of people she wants to kill. Amory departs the town without burying any of the dead. Afterwards, Jaqen, Hagar, Rorge, and Biter enter his service. So, yeah. They save him from him, and then they join him. So, yeah. All right. Harrenhal, a minor lordling, we get to Harrenhal. A minor lordling from the Trident walked all the way to the King's Landing to speak to Tyrion, acting hand, about the destruction done to the to his lands. Tyrion smelled Gregor Clegane's work, or that of Sir Amory Lorch, or his father's other pet hellhound, the Cohoric, which is Vargo Hout. Seeing the value of a compliant Riverlord, Tyrion promises to make time for him tomorrow and orders him to get good quarters, a meal, and new boots on the courtesy of King Joffrey. So I looked way too long to find out which lordling this is. So if it's in the book somewhere, let me know, because I couldn't find it. I kept looking. Maybe it's the next chapter and it's like, oh, and then he meets, Ted Piper, and he's the guy who sent him away the day before. If you guys know which Riverland lordling shows up to complain and gets a free meal out of the deal, let me know. I can find it. Amory attacks the townhouse of Sow's Horn, and it slaughtered the animals, even though they were sworn to House Hayford, or sworn to King's Landing. Yeah, they're like a crownland house. right? Or Hayford is at least. So they're sworn to King's Landing and they're not even in the Riverlands. But Amory's an idiot and he sees a place and you're near the Riverlands. He's not looking up to make sure there's borders or whatever. And he's like, kill all the animals. Let's go. Kill all the animals. Let's go take a nap. Amory Lorch. All right. Amory captures 2 innocent small folk, a beekeeper and his wife, and threatens far and wide to hang them if Lord Beric Dondarrion does not surrender to him. Yeah. Sorry. I don't know why I stopped. When Beric surrenders, so he's like, I'm going to hang these guys unless Beric surrenders. So Beric does surrender, and Amory hangs the beekeeper and his wife anyway, with Beric strung up in the middle. Beric is later resurrected by Thoros of Myr. Later, when Arya is disguised as a servant girl named Weasel in Harrenhal, she thinks that in the light of day, Sir Amory looked less frightening than he had by torchlight, but he still had pig eyes, as she recalled. So he's still an uggo. Amory had fewer men than she remembered, though many wounded. She hopes that they all fester and die. Jesus. Man, I love going back and reading Arya chapters. Like, even in, like, these earlier books, it's like, oh, man, you sweet girl. Like, she's already so gone. Like, she's already so violent. Like, it's like, oh, some of them are dead, and the rest are sick. I hope they all die. Like, she's Arya. You need a hug. Do you need a hug? Let's hug it out, Arya. Poor girl. All right. So yeah, he's less ugly now, but still ugly. She hopes that they all fester die. There you go. She is offered the deaths of 3 people by Jaqen H'ghar because Jaqen's like, you saved me and 2 other people, so the death god needs some lives, right? So she considers Amory for one of them before deciding on Chiswick. So boom, there's a change. This is not where Amory dies. I got 4 more story slides. Like I said, it's going to be a long one. So Amory does not die here. He does not pick her. The castellan of Harrenhal. When Tywin Lannister takes most of his army east to engage with Stannis Baratheon, he makes Amory castellan of Harrenhal, with the bloody mummers also left behind to do the foraging, which is just, burning the Riverlands. Though Vargo and Amory have always hated each other. Yeah. Amory Lorch and Vargo hate each other. While castellan, Amory resides in the castellan chambers in the King's Spire Tower, with only 100 men left to guard the rest of Harrenhal. And he drinks a great deal of the best wine in the castle cellars. Yeah, Amory's drinking it up. Later, when visiting Hot Pie in the kitchens one night, as he is making tarts and talking about ghosts. So Hot Pie is making tarts and he's talking about ghosts late one night. So it's almost the morning. He's making it for the morning. Arya asks if she can have one. And Hot Pie says that he needs the whole tray for Amory because he is partial to them. Arya says that they should spit on all of them. Hot Pie looked around nervously and says, he'll know. Like, he'll find out if we spit on him. Arya says that you can't taste spit. But Hot Pie says that if he does know, then it's him that they'll whip. Like, no, you're going to get me freaking beat for this. Like, don't spit on his tarts. She leaves, but still's a tart anyways. There we go, Arya. It was stuffed with chopped nuts and fruits and cheese. The crust flaky and still warm from the oven. So eating Sir Amory's tart made Arya feel daring. I love that. I got a little food description for you too. I'm not trying to steal Glidus and Swifty's shtick. I just had to throw a food description in there because I loved the idea of like this like nutty, cheesy, appley tart, and then she's like, I feel daring now. Oh, yeah. Soon after that, Vargo and his mummers come through the gate with northern captives, waking up Amory, who came out into the covered galley above the ward, flanked by 2 torchbearers. Hote calls to Amory and says, he calls out to Amory, and then Amory asks, "What's all this, Hote?" That's a great voice. Hote! That's a great voice crack. Fall of Harrenhal. Hote answers with his slobbery speech that all the captives are from that they are captives and that Roose Bolton tried to cross the river. They killed many men and sent Roose running. Amory Lorch stared down at the roped captives with his little pig eyes, and Arya did not think he was pleased. Anyone in the castle knew he and Vargo Hoat hated each other. Amory said, "Very well, Sir Caldwyn, take these men to the dungeons." And Robert Glover claims that Hoat promised them honorable treatment. Hoat yells, "Silence!" Hoat kind of talks like, was it Sylvester? Silence! Thucker and Thuckatath. That's Vargo Hoat. And Amory addresses the captives. "What Hoat promised you is nothing to me. Lord Tywin made me castellan of Harrenhal, and I shall do with you as I please. Now everybody dance." And I'm kidding, he doesn't make them dance. It'd be funny though. He gestured to his guards. The great cell under the widow's tower ought to hold them, and who do not care to go are free to die here. Oh, and who do not care free to go. See, I couldn't say it. They're gonna die here. Shut up. I was one of the captives who, was Robert Glover like messing up? But he's like, "Hey, we're not supposed to be treated like this." And Hoat's like, "I know, it's part of the ruse. Silence." Or was he just like playing the part? He's probably just playing the part, right? Arya plans to free the captives with her weasel soup plot, but little did she know that Hoat and the Northerners had already planned all this all along to free the Northerners in the Riverlands as the brave companions simultaneously turn on the Lannister allies, killing them in their beds while they are celebrating in the barracks hall. Roose Bolton seizes the castle and captures Amory Lorch. There you go. So, it's like this whole thing where she like gets Jaqen and like Rorge and other people to help like free the Northerners so she can do a little mutiny, and it's called the Weasel Soup plot. And then as she does it, it's already happening. Like she doesn't know that was actually the plan the whole time. So no one even knows that she tried, except for like Shagwell. All right. The Bear Pit. After the fall of Harrenhal, 4 brave companions climbed the ramparts and hauled down the Lion of Lannister and Sir Amory's own Black Manticore flag. So they're pulling down the banners of Amory Lorch and Lannister. In their place, they raised the flayed man of the Dreadfort and the direwolf of House Stark. And that evening, Roose Bolton and Vargo Hoat stood at the galley, watching the brave companions parade Sir Amory Lorch naked through the middle ward. Sir Amory pleaded and sobbed and clung to the legs of his captors until Rorge pulled him loose and Shagwell kicked him down into the bear pit. Arya Stark is present to witness Amory's death and mentally notes, the bear is all in black, like Yoren. And the bear tears Amory apart. So, hey, we got one of these. Where is it?
Poochie's dead!
Yeah, there you go. I do like that she purposely makes a connection to the bear being black and Yoren wearing black. That's cool because he killed Yoren, man. Later, after that, way after that, Jaime is captured by Hoat, and he gets his hand chopped off and brought to Roose and Harrenhal and is then released. And he decides to go back and save Brienne. I'm skipping through a lot here. I'm just trying to get back to the bear pit. Jaime jumps into the bear pit to save Brienne. And while in the pit, he saw something half buried in the sand, and he snatched it up with his good hand, and it proved to be a human jawbone with some greenish flesh still clinging to it. It was crawling of maggots, and he wondered whose face he was holding. But there is a good chance that face is Amory's. I put money on it. We know that Amory got tossed down there. Of course, we don't know how many people were fed to the bear, so it might not be Amory Lorch's, but I mean, it might be. It's a very good chance, right? Okay, we got 2 more slides, guys. Revenge! Prince Oberyn Martell comes to King's Landing to seek justice for the deaths of his sister Princess Arya and her children, Princess Rhaenys and Prince Aegon Targaryen. So remember, Amory killed Rhaenys, and Gregor Clegane killed Prince Aegon, most likely, and Princess Arya, right? So during the sack of King's Landing, Tywin tells Tyrion his plan to blame all 3 deaths entirely on the deceased Amory. That way he's already dead and they don't have to pay anything, right? Who in truth only killed the Rhaenys. To circumvent giving Sir Gregor Clegane over to Oberyn Martell. Tywin tells Tyrion his point of view that day and how Amory justified his brutal murder of Rhaenys because she was screaming and that she had kicked him, right? And that he didn't know what he had in Gregor. So honestly, I completely forgot about this conversation. And it's Tyrion and Tywin tells I think I knew this conversation happened, but I totally forgot how brutally honest Tywin is. And he's like, pretty much says like, dude, I didn't want to done it like this. Like, I didn't know Gregor was going to treat Elia Martell that way. Like, I wanted them taken. And it's like, well, why did he kill him? And he's like, because I didn't specifically tell them not to. And I didn't realize that Gregor was an absolute monster. He said, I thought he was a big dude, and I knew that he fought with a lot of ferocity. I didn't know he was that. I forgot about that scene. And this is where the line I had earlier about Tyrion, or about Amory Lorch should have just done it a different way. In case you skipped over it, I'm not going to use it anymore. But yeah, it came from this conversation. Dude, if you haven't gone back through these chapters of, I want to say this is Storm, dude, that conversation was really good. I forgot how good that conversation was. All right, anyways, just like brutally honest and almost Tywin being like almost vulnerable, at least that's how I read it. That was sick. All right, so Tywin plans to tell Oberyn that Amory acted on his own without orders to gain favor from the new king, Robert Baratheon, and hopes that Amory's recent brutal death will appease Oberyn's needs for justice. Of course, that's not true. But later, to spite his father, Tyrion tells Oberyn that Amory Lorch did kill Rhaenys, but also that Gregor killed Elia and Aegon. So Tyrion tells Oberyn the truth, right? Oberyn later dies in a trial of combat against Gregor Clegane. So now we're skipping past that. In Sunspear, Yoren Martell, so Oberyn's older brother and Elia Martell's older brother, right? Yoren Martell tells Aerys Oakheart of the Kingsguard that Princess Marcella Baratheon may be in danger. When Aerys protests that only a beast could hurt a little girl, Yoren reminds him of Amory and Rhaenys. Like, yeah, but it happens, right? At the Eyrie, Littlefinger reminds Sansa Stark about the curse of Harrenhal and the deaths of who have held the castle recently, including Amory Lorch. Back in Sunspear, Ilaria San wants to end the hostilities against the Lannisters, as all of those who had a hand on of the death of Elia and her children are dead, including Amory Lorch. So she's like, they're like, vengeance! You know, the Sand Snakes, and everyone's like, hey, we need vengeance. And Ilaria Sand's like, with who? Like, Gregor's dead, so they think, right? His head's being sent to them. Amory Lorch got fed to bears. Tywin Lannister got killed by Tyrion. What do you guys want? You know, like, do you just want all of the blood? Because that's bad. And they're like, yes, that is what we want. All right. So differences. Well, the interaction with Yoren seems very similar for the most part, at least. So the blocking is different. Like, they're up on top of like the holdfast, and the dialogue is close, but not completely close. Like, Yoren is the one who goes, which king? But it's somebody else, you know, as I said already, who says it in the books. And then it goes very different since Amory is killed by Jack and Agar, which is Suberoff, after chasing Arya around, and that does not happen in the book. Like, Arya isn't Tywin's cupbearer in the book, so we don't see any of those scenes. Also, they look very different. With book Amory being described as a pig with pig eyes and stuff. And also, Yeah, and show, like, I don't know, he looks like a normal dude, right? We also don't get Vargo Hoat at all, and that means a rivalry isn't there, and neither of them are murdered in the bear pit. So there's no murder in the bear pit. None of that happens because he dies from Jack and Agar. Also, the Rainies of it all. It is never mentioned, as far as I could tell in the show, that Amory killed the Rainies, nor any animosity from the Dornish. And that's a huge part of the books. Yeah, at least maybe I have to go back and watch those scenes, which I didn't. I didn't watch the entire show for this one episode. I watched the entire show multiple times, but I didn't go back. I watched multiple scenes, but I didn't go back and see, did Oberyn ever at once mention Amory Lorch? Because he mostly just mentions Gregor Clegane, right? So maybe he does, but I don't believe so. So this is one of those characters that they get right in the beginning, but they kind of just like ditch it later on and kind of do whatever they want with him. And yeah, that's about it. So there you guys go. Horrible character. Amory Lorch. You know, I covered him, so I didn't have to cover him anymore. I got it out. It was like a Band-Aid. I was like, Amory Lorch is somebody who I probably should cover, and I'm in a good mood right now, so let's just rip this horrible Band-Aid off and cover Amory Lorch. Sadly, it's such a long video because I've been covering them in such depth lately. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. If you could talk about Amory Lorch and enjoy it, I don't know. I couldn't. But click like, subscribe. I'm gonna ask for you guys to share. I don't do this too much, but my channel is kind of having a dip in views lately, and I've been working really, really hard, and you don't owe me anything at all, but please, if you find it in your cold, dead hearts to help me out, click like, subscribe, share it, do all that stuff. If you have been enjoying my my content for a long time, try to get the word out, and yeah, that's all I got. Peace.